सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। परं वरिष्ठं ब्रह्मिष्ठं परमानन्दरूपिणं परमार्थानन्दयतिं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। So the seventh and final question of the student is being answered by the Guru in these portions. This is the Panchakosha Viveka topic, otherwise known as Atma Anatma Viveka topic. So of the 5 koshas, we have already seen the first 3 in the form of Annamaya, Pranamaya and Manomaya. And you would have observed that we are gradually traveling inwards, grosser to subtler. So each kosha, when we enter, it is mistaken as Atma. And later we learn it is not Atma, but a kosha only, which is an Anatma only. So initially Annamaya is called Annamaya Atma. The moment we enter Pranamaya, then the Pranamaya is named Atma. And then from Annamaya to Pranamaya, then Pranamaya enjoys Atma status until we enter Manomaya. And once we come to Manomaya and give it Atma status, Pranamaya is reduced to a Kosha or Anatma. Thus, as we travel inwards, each Maya, right, is reduced into a Kosha or Anatma. Thus, having reduced the first 3 koshas into Anatma, we are now going to enter the Vijnanamaya, the 4th layer. And we must remember that as we get deeper and deeper into each kosha, the understanding also, right, requires a great deal of concentration, contemplation, etc. And I can also see that maybe many of them are not able to, take the live class because it is quite intense. And maybe they need to, sit and listen and re-listen twice, thrice, etc. to understand this, right? So you are going to see that today's class will also be like this. But then we are entering the crux of the Vedanta now, the main topic. And in Taittiriya Upanishad, one of the very important Upanishads, which is also chanted regularly, the Brahmananda Valli, if you see, takes you on this journey slowly and it keeps dismissing. And I must tell you that very few people get it in the first, Shravanam, because it takes years to understand what is the Upanishad actually trying to communicate, right? It takes a long time. So anyway, we will be proceeding into Vijnanamaya Kosha today. So we completed the Manomaya Kosha in verse 51, which was Manomayo napi bhavet paratma ह्याद्यन्तवत्वात् परिणामि भावात् दुःखात्मकत्वात् विषयत्व हेतोः drashta hi drishyatmataya na drishtaha. So the Manomaya Kosha can never be Paramatma because it has a beginning and end. It is subject to changes, has sorrow as its nature, and is an object of perception. So the subject is never seen to be in the form of the object which is seen. So we will proceed to verse 52, which is Vijnanamaya Kosha beginning. Buddhir buddhindriyai sardham
Buddhir buddhendriyai sardham
savritti kartri lakshanaha
savrittih kartri lakshanaha
Vijnanamaya Kosha syat
Vijnanamaya kosha syat
Pumsas samsara karanam.
Pumsas samsara karanam.
So you would have observed that we did 2 shlokas for Manomaya Kosha, whereas in the original text, it is actually 17 verses on Manomaya Kosha, from verses 167 to 183. Similarly, for Vijnanamaya Kosha, it is from 52 to 56. We are doing about 5 verses here. Acharya in his original work has allocated 22 verses from 185 to 206. So, if you are really interested in doing all the 500 and odd verses, you can listen to Swamiji's full text on 555 verses. Very nice. And it is, a gradual study, right? So, buddhi indriyaihi sardham. So, buddhi means intellect along with the free will or the willpower, the deciding ability. So, which thought I should entertain, which thought I should remember, where I should entertain aham vritti, manovritti. So, I use the vritti or manomaya, vritti is thought, or manomaya only as an instrument. The I, which is called the karta, it is called buddhi with the free will. So, buddhihi indriyaihi. So, with the 5 sense organs, because I must decide which sense organs to use. Look at this powerful statement, right? I must use the selector, right? There is this knob in some of these older electronic instruments, right? Like that. So, with the help of the mind, right? I, the selector, decides which sense organ must be used. Therefore, the decider I, the self-willed I, is here called the buddhihi. So, buddhi indriyaihi, with the 5 jnanendriyai. Buddhi here means jnanendriyai, the 5 sense organs of knowledge, right? The 6 factors, along with the intellect, right? So, 1 intellect plus 5 sense organs, sardham, along with, joined together. Savrittihi kartrilakshanaha. So, with varieties of vritti available as an instrument of transaction, which is called manomaya, savrittihi means along with these thoughts broadly divided into aham vritti and idam vritti. Basically, I thought and this thought. This is a bottle, this is a mouse, this is a laptop, like this. That is idam vritti. And I thought is aham vritti. So, when I ask, like, who are you? Please introduce yourself. What is your age, etc. I consistently entertain, I am so and so. I am born to such and such parents. I am born in this place, right? So I deliberately invoke the aham vritti. At other times, I invoke idam vritti, like I am listening to this class, right? So I'm listening to this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, right? So thus, I am along with varieties of vritti at my disposal for transactions, right? Always. So, savrittihi kartrilakshanaha. Basically, it is called the karta, and manomaya is the karana atma. So, vijnanamaya is the karta atma. So, kartrilakshanaha, he is the leader of the group, right? So, kartrilakshanaha vijnanamaya koshaha syat. And this karta is called Vijnanamaya, which is Atma for ignorant people, but which in reality is Koshaha as revealed by the Shastra. Just think about it, pause and think about it. Before you have come into this Vedanta class and you have been exposed to, say, Introduction to Vedanta or Gita or any of these, what do common people? So if you actually look at it, 99% of the individuals, or maybe even more than that, will be thinking maximum Vijnanamaya Kosha is I, right? So that is a fact. That is what people believe. Only the Shastram actually exposes to all these things, and then we start thinking about these koshas, Atma, etc. Right? So, Vijnanamaya koshaha pumsaha samsara karanam syat. And this karta Atma, who becomes a bhokta Atma, who becomes a jnata Atma, that is karta, bhokta, jnata, the doer, the experiencer or the enjoyer, and the knower. The Sanskrit ending ta basically means er, right? So this is the trich pratyayanta for people who understand that in Sanskrit, right? Karta, bhokta, jnata, doer, knower, right? Enjoyer. So this doer subject I is pumsaha samsara karanam. So this I is called ahankara. So karta, bhokta, jnata, jivaha. So this is the samsara karanam. And this is basically the root of all the trouble. Why? Because karta produces sanchita agami prarabdha karma. Right? So it's exactly like the silkworm weaving the silk around itself and ending in the cauldron of boiling water, right? So we weave the sanchita agami prarabdha karmas and fall into the hot water called samsara. Therefore, ahankara has to be understood properly. So buddhir buddhindriyaihi sardham savrittik kartrilakshanaha vijnanamaya koshasyat pumsas samsara karanam. And all our life, if you see, we are only between these three: karta, bhokta, and jnata, right? Always between these three states. We'll see more about it in the next verse also. Anuvrajya chitta pratibimba shaktihi. Chit pratibimba shaktihi.
Anuvrajachit pratibimba shaktihi.
Vijnana sanya prakritirvikaraha.
Vijnana-sanjñah prakritirvikaraः
ज्ञानक्रियावानहमित्यजस्रम्
ज्ञानक्रियावान् अहमित्यजस्रम्
देहेन्द्रियादिष्वभिमन्यते भृशम्
देहेन्द्रियादिष्वभिमन्यते भृशम्.
So this Vijnanamaya is Prakritir Vikaraha, is also a product of Prakriti. So Prakriti is another name for Maya, which we actually discussed while defining Karana Shariram. So we used 4 words: Avyaktam, Shaktihi, Avidya, and Maya we used. Okay, here the 5th word we are adding, Prakriti, Mula Prakriti or Mula Vidya. They're all synonymous. Prakritir Vikaraha. From the Prakriti or Maya alone, everything has evolved, including Vijnana Maya. Right? So, of course, not directly, but through the intermediary state of the 5 subtle elements. So, from Maya or Prakriti, the 5 subtle elements called Sukshma Bhutani evolves. So, Sukshma Shariram comprises of Pranamaya plus Manomaya plus Vijnanamaya. And in the evolution of Pranamaya, Rajoguna of the 5 subtle elements, they play a very prominent role. In the evolution of the Manomaya and Vijnanamaya, the Sattva Guna plays an important role. So the Samashti Sattva Guna is responsible for the mind and intellect. Vyashti Sattva Guna or individual elements is responsible for the Jnanendriyani, the sense organs of knowledge. Right? So you can revise Tattva Bodha, you will be able to relate much better. Right? So, Acharya also here doesn't elaborate. He assumes that we know Tattva Bodha. So, even though the mind-intellect complex is supposed to be born out of the Sattva Guna of 5 elements, we must note that it is predominantly Sattva Guna, but the Rajasic and Tamasic tendencies are also there to a lesser degree. That is why in Bhagavad Gita, certain thoughts are considered Rajasic. लोभः प्रवृत्तिरारम्भः कर्मणाम शमः स्पृहा रजस्येतानि जायन्ते विवृद्धे भरतर्षभ. Hey Arjuna, when the Rajoguna is slightly more, then greed, etc. happens, right? So people may have a natural doubt. How can Rajasic vritti be in the mind when the mind is supposed to be made up of Sattva Guna of the 5 elements, right? We must remember that it is mind is predominantly Sattvic. But Rajasic and Tamasic vrittis are possible because Sattva is predominantly Sattva. It includes traces of Rajas and Tamas also. And Vijnanamaya is a product of the Samashti Sattva Guna of the 5 subtle elements, which themselves are products of Prakriti. Therefore, Prakritir Vikaraha. But Atma is not a product. Therefore, they cannot be equated. I am the Atma, which is not a product, whereas the Ahankara, Sukshma Shariram, the Vijnanamaya is a product, Prakritir Vikaraha. So this must be clear to us. Vikaraha actually has 2 meanings. One is modification, the other is product. So here we take it as a product, Vijnana Sanyaha. The very suffix Maya indicates that it is a product. So anuvrajat chit pratibimba shaktihi, and this Vijnanamaya has the capacity to reflect or borrow consciousness through the Karana Shariram. So you must remember, Vijnanamaya Kosha onwards, Manomaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha correspond to the Sukshma Shariram. Okay. So what are we saying here? Vijnanamaya has the capacity to reflect or borrow consciousness through the Karana Shariram. So it borrows Chit Pratibimba or Chidabhasa, reflected consciousness, like the moonlight, right? Which is nothing but the reflected sunlight. So Atma's Chaitanyam is the original. Karana Shariram's Chaitanyam is borrowed. Similarly, Sukshma Shariram's Chaitanyam or Vijnanamaya Kosha's Chaitanyam is borrowed. Therefore, Anuvraja Chit Pratibimba Shaktihi. Anuvraja means it follows, it flows into Anugachati. So, wherever Vijnanamaya goes, the Chidabhasa also travels, right? So, the borrowed consciousness travels, but because Atma is everywhere, right? It to lend consciousness, there is no travel. It need not travel. Atma doesn't travel. So wherever Vijnanamaya goes, it can tap the reflection, right? So because the Atma is all-pervading. Therefore, the all-pervading Atma is available everywhere and Vijnanamaya can borrow its pratibimba. And because of that, Vijnanamaya becomes sentient and it becomes a knower. So Vijnanamaya Kosha by itself is not a knower. It is inert. But with borrowed Chidabhasa, the Vijnanamaya is capable of knowing the external world through the body and sense organs, just as the sunlight illumines the moon and the moonlight is formed. So on a Paurnami night, the moonlight is so powerful, right, that the non-luminous moon with borrowed light is actually able to illumine the entire earth. We are able to even have moonlight dinners, right? So similarly, Atma lends consciousness to Vijnanamaya and Vijnanamaya illumines the external world, right? So whenever I say pramata, it is nothing but the intellect with borrowed consciousness, right? So Prakriter vikaraha anuvraja chit pratibamba shaktihi. Shaktihi means power of illumination or revealing power. So basically a wall cannot illumine any object because wall does not borrow consciousness from the Atma. So it will remain insentient. The desk will remain insentient, right? The laptop will remain insentient. So Vidyaranya says in Panchadashi that every inert object has one consciousness. We must remember this, which is the original consciousness, whereas every sentient being has two consciousness, two types of consciousness. One is the original consciousness, which is all pervading, and second is the reflected consciousness. So original consciousness plus reflected consciousness is equal to a sentient being. So you must remember that, right? So Anuvrajat is basically it is Anuvraje Chit Pratibimba means the Chidabhasa, the reflected consciousness. So follows. Shakti means power of illumination. So with that Shakti, Vijnanamaya becomes Pramata or Jnata, the knower. And therefore Jnana Kriyavan. Not only it becomes Jnata, Pramata by it also by using the Manomaya Kosha as an instrument, which is the Karana Atma, it entertains, basically Karana Atma, Manomaya entertains various thoughts, right? So thus Vijnanamaya Jnata becomes the knower of varieties of things in the world. Therefore, Jnanavan Bhavati, right? So if you take the pot, Gata Vritti Dwara, Gata Jnanavan Bhavati. Through the pot thought, right, he becomes the knower of thought, right? So Patavritti Dwara Patagnyanavan Bhavati. So through various vrittis or thoughts, Vijnanamayam Kosha becomes the knower of varieties of things. And through Pranamaya, by employing the Pranamaya also, this Jnata, the Vijnanamaya, becomes Kriyavan, right? So using the 5 karmendriyanis, hand, legs, etc., I become the doer of things. So by using the speech, now I am becoming a speaker. By using pranamaya, I have become the speaker. And by using your manomaya, you have become a knower. So, jnana kriyavan cha bhavati. Right? So, what does he do? Aham iti ajasram. So, when the Vijnanamaya uses the word I, it is not confined to the buddhi alone, but it extends to the manomaya. So, it identifies with manomaya, which is its instrument. It identifies with pranamaya. It identifies with Annamaya Kosha also. So this Vijnanamaya alone identifies with other koshas. Therefore, Deha Indriya Dishu, in the Annamaya Kosha, Indriyams or sense organs, etc., Abhimanyate Brisham. Abhimanyate means identifies with. So Brisham means intensely or passionately. So our attachment and love to our body, that is so intense, right? That all the time we keep pampering the body. Therefore, Brisham means passionately, right? So, it passionately identifies. And Ajasram means continuously or constantly. Ahamiti. I am, I am, I am. So, when the body is 60 years old, also, we don't say my body is 60. We say I am 60, right? So, it is natural. Ahamiti ajasram abhimanyate. Ajasram, right, is also qualifying abhimanyate, continuously. And Brisham means passionately. So with Vijnanamaya, Ahankara identifies, thus Ahankara extends to Manomaya, Pranamaya and Annamaya. And outside of Annamaya, all the other things and beings I identify as Mamakara. So my spouse, my children, right? My profession, my possessions, my investments, right? So, and then we start taking pride in all of them. And it can also be the cause of samsara. The moment it causes samsara, it is called attachment. And when you take care of your family, your grandchildren, etc., and without any expectation, it's called love. So making oneself available for them is love, but getting attached and worrying, right? So getting concerned all the time and worrying is attachment. So a jnani alone has got real love. On the other hand, we mistake, right, our attachment for love. So ahankara alone, basically ahankara and mamakara, I just wanted to point out. Ahankara alone extends to Vijnanamaya Kosha. So aham iti abhimanyate brisham. That ahankara is responsible for samsara. So in verse 52, the previous verse, the last line, we saw samsara karanam. So the ahankara jiva is the cause of samsara, it was said. So the word samsara karanam is being elaborated here. So the commentary on samsara karanam is verse 53 to 55. And what is the proof? We might wonder. Why so much we are speaking about it? That ahankara is samsara karanam. What is the proof? So in Sanskrit, we use this logic called Anvaya Vyatireka logic. During waking period, ahankara is there. So we experience samsara. But the moment we go to sleep, ahankara goes to dormant state. And we are blissful. We are one with Atma. We are free of samsara. That is basically the proof, right? That it is ahankara which is samsara karanam. So, anuvraja chitta pratibimba shaktihi vijnana sangya prakriter vikaraha. Anuvraja chit pratibimba shaktihi vijnana sangya prakriter vikaraha. Jnana kriyavan ahamityajasram dehendriyadish vabhimanyate brisham. अनादिकालोऽयमहं स्वभावः
अनादिकालोऽयमहं स्वभावः
जीवः समस्तव्यवहारवोढा
जीवः समस्तव्यवहारवोढा
करोति कर्माण्यपि पूर्ववासनः
करोति कर्माण्यपि पूर्ववासनः
पुण्यान्यपुण्यानि च तत्फलानि
पुण्यान्यपुण्यानि च तत्फलानि
So verse 54 and 55 are grammatically, to be connected as one sentence. So we'll take up 54 first. So, I am aham swabhavaha. This I thought and I vasana. So the word swabhavaha refers to abhimana and the abhimana vasana. So identification and the habit of identification. So ahankara abhimana vijnanamaya. So ahankara vasana. Both these put together is aham swabhavaha. It has almost become a second nature. So what Acharya wants to convey is removal of ahankara vasana is going to be a very, very tough lifelong project or maybe multiple janmas, right? Shravanam and Mananam gives us the knowledge. So people claim, I have intellectual knowledge, but I don't see any practical benefit. So for that to happen, the vasana must be weakened by long nididhyasanam. So our identification with family is so strong that if some news even comes in some part of the world, but it is vaguely connected, then we start worrying, right? So it happens naturally. So this is why the study of Vedanta has to be followed by long Nididhyasanam. So Nididhyasanam is Vedantic meditation. That alone will weaken the Vasana, and that weakening alone will gradually make us change our reactions into responses, right? So first I ask the question, what, when some bad news comes? And then after a few moments, once I have done sufficient Nididhyasanam, in case, I have imbibed it, I will say, oh, so what? Because everything is governed by karma, good things will happen, bad things will happen. I will handle them to the best of my capacity, but I won't react because these are natural to anatma. So thus the what gets converted to so what. So this is this FIR reduction, right? So once you start Nididhyasanam over the years or months, right, you will start seeing this difference. The time interval taken to bounce back, right? Saying, oh, these are all anatma. You can't expect anything better than that and move on, right? So that takes time. So a jnani, in the case of a jnani, even as the worry arises, right, he's able to distance by sakshi bhava. So anatma is going through the prarabdha. I will do what I can, right, through ahankara. But whatever happens, happens. So the word swabhava indicates that the knowledge does not instantaneously solve emotional problems, right? So if we had attacked the emotional problems through karma yoga itself, with Ishwararpana and Prasada Bhavanas, emotions may have reduced. Then Nididhyasanam will further reduce these reduced emotions. So Karma Yoga is for grosser reduction of emotion. Nididhyasanam is for finer reduction of emotions, right? So this is all background information on Nididhyasanam, because as Grihasthas, we always have this question in our mind, right? How do we implement this and what is it that we need to do? Nididhyasanam is the only way to dilute this ahankara. So, I am aham swabhavaha, this ahankara, anadikalaha. It has been there for anadikala, because the ahankara is a misconception born out of self-ignorance, and self-ignorance is beginningless. Therefore, ahankara is also anadi. So during sleep and during pralayam, ahankara doesn't get destroyed. It only goes into a dormant condition. Even during pralayam, ahankara is there in dormant condition. During sleep also, ahankara is dormant. The moment I wake up, the ahankara also wakes up. Therefore, it is anadikalaha. Ahankara will totally perish only at the time of videha mukti. So during Jivan Mukti also, a jnani will have ahankara, but a jnani's ahankara will lose its capacity to generate samsara, right? Emotional samsara. Because of the jnani treating himself as akarta, abhokta. So Shankaracharya compares jnani's ahankara to a roasted seed, right? Which is roasted in the fire of jnanam. So the roasted seed cannot germinate even if you plant it. So jnani also has non-binding ahankara. Even this will go away at the time of videha mukti. So during Jivan Mukti, non-binding ahankara. During Videha Mukti, no ahankara. Or we say it merges into Samashti ahankara of Ishvara. Therefore, Anadikalaha. This aham swabhavaha is called Jivaha. And Jivaha samasta vyavahara vodha. Right? Vodha means performer. It is from Vah Dhatu. Right? Vahati. Vahati iti vodha. Like karoti iti karta. Right? So when the tha is added, it becomes basically dhakara. But here there is some special sandhi sutras that operate, and therefore instead of, right, it becomes, instead of karta, bhokta, etc., it becomes vodha. Right? So to carry out, the jiva becomes the carrier out of the performer, basically carrier of, and carries out the performer, or the performer of all transaction, right? So he carries out varieties of transactions with the world. So samsara vyavahara, all transactions with the world, he carries out vodha. So of course, with the help of manomaya, pranamaya and annamaya kosha, and that is why vijnanamaya is called karta atma, right? Manomaya is called karanam. So pranamaya and annamaya are called karyam. So basically manomaya and pranamaya together you can take it as karanam, and annamaya as karya shariram, right? So, and what type of vyavahara? Karmani cha karoti, right? So once I become an ahankara, identified with vijnanamaya kosha, right? So, and remember, where the jiva ahankara is there, atma is also there, because it is the mixture ahankara and atma. The real I and the false ahankara I are always mixed together. Mere ahankara doesn't exist. Mere atma also doesn't exist in the body, right? It is always a mixture. So, mithya jnana nimittah satyanrite mithuni kritya ahamidam mamedam iti naisargikoyam lokavyavaharaha. So, the Adhyasa Bhashyam of Shankaracharya, which is the introductory Bhashyam to Brahma Sutra, starts with this. So, the real I, the Atma, and the false I, the Ahankara, together, basically, karoti, meaning performs karmani. Because the moment I identify with ahankara as a karta, bhokta, and pramata, the desires just take over. As a pramata ahankara, I want to get educated, I want to do my bachelor's degree, then PG, then doctorate, then, want to get married, get settled, have children, shashtya purti. It goes on and on and on, right? So I can never get purnatvam in knowledge. So therefore, karma for jnanam. And as a karta, I have a desire for doing so many things. I want to become a doctor. I want to serve the society. Then as a pramata, I want to know so many things. As a bhokta, in between, I want to have a vacation in Kenya, maybe in the game sanctuary. I want to go to see the northern lights, etc. As a bhokta, right? So always you're running between karta, bhokta, and pramata. So desire to learn, desire to do, desire to enjoy, the threefold karma, basically. The threefold kind of kama, the desires, right? So I have to do, I have to do. So therefore, karmani karoti. And some desires are acquired desires by talking to others, by watching movies, by seeing commercials, right? Then we get acquire these. So some of the desires are purva janma vasanas. I have some instinctive desires also, right? And goaded by purva janma vasana, some of them are there. And also some acquired desires are there, right? So karmani karoti api. He performs varieties of karma in this janma also. And if you look at it, your entire life, you're actually operating between karta, bhokta, pramata all the time. So the other day I was wondering if I want to spend, say, more time, learning scriptures, teaching scriptures, etc., then I would do more percentage of pramata work. But at the end of it, apurnatvam will always be there as long as you are in these three, right? Triad. Whether you're a karta, Whether you are a bhokta or you are a pramata, always that apurnatvam will be there. The only way of achieving purnatvam is to transcend all the three states, right? Karta, bhokta and pramata. But anyway, here we are discussing Vijnanamaya Kosha. So the Vijnanamaya Kosha is always between these three states, right? So punyani, apunyani, karmani cha karoti tat phalani. So these karmani are punyani and apunyani. When I have desire, I do righteous things, I acquire things righteously or properly. When the desire gets into greed, then I cannot use legitimate methods, because legitimate methods of acquiring wealth may take time and more effort, right? So once I get greedy, then I try to earn money by wrong methods, violating dharma, and it becomes apunya karmani or papa karmani. Therefore, Acharya says punyani, right action, apunyani, which is papa karmani or wrong actions, dharmic and adharmic actions, karoti. So avidya kama karma cycle, this is the direction or trajectory of samsara. Avidya, kama, karma, and these karmani cannot keep quiet because they have to get converted into karma phalam. So every action has got an equal reaction. So the karma phalam is a waiting, right, time bomb. So it is like a time bomb with an inbuilt timer. Some of the results will fructify in this janma itself, called agami karmani, agami karma phalani. Some of the karmas cannot fructify in this janma because they require a different type of body. So human body cannot take those agami phalam. So they will wait, right? Maybe we need a buffalo body, or maybe a bat body, or an octopus body, or maybe a celestial body, because not all karmas can be exhausted in the same jiva, right? So different types of bodies will be needed. So karma will basically wait, it will be carried forward for fructification in a future janma. Thus, karta will become bhokta immediately or later. And that is what is said here, tat phalani. Right? So, we'll continue with this verse and then we'll continue with the meaning. Bhunkte vichitra swapiyo nishu vrajan.
Bhunkte vichitrasvapi yonishu vrajan.
Ayati niryatya
Ayati niryatyathavurdhvameshaha.
Asyaiva vijnanamayasya jagrat swapnadyavastha sukha dukha bhoga.
Asyaiva vijnanamaya jagrat swapnadyavastha sukha dukkha bhoga.
Jagrat swapnadhyavastaha is a compound word. That's why I didn't want to break the word there. Okay, now this whole thing is grammatically a sentence. So the brightened one corresponds to this particular verse. Okay, verse 55. So tat phalani refers to karma phalani. It has to be connected to this 55th verse, right? After cha. So bhunkte is the verb to be connected to tat phalani of the previous verse. Bhunkte means experiences. So yeshaha, the ahankara, Atma Mishrita Ahankaraha, Sakshi Mishrita Ahankaraha, this Ahankara, when it is Karta, Atma is also called Karta. Atma is also called Karta in association with the Ahankara. But Atma is the passive Karta. So you should put it within inverted commas. Part of the Karta team, Ityartaha. So Atma is also part of this Karta team. Therefore, Atma is called Nirvikara Karta. Right? So, Apani Pado Javano Grahita Pashyatya Chakshus Sashunotya Karnaha Saveti Vedyam Nachatasyasti Veta Tamahuragyam Purusham Mahantam. So, Shvetashvatra Upanishad says this. So, Pashyati Achakshuhu Sashrunoti Akarnaha. So it is said in the Upanishad that Atma is Nirvikara Karta, Ahankara is Savikara Karta. So now here we are focusing on Ahankara, the Savikara Karta. So, eshaha ahankaraha tat phalani bhunte. So, it is paid back in its own coin. So, the result is given by Ishvara, who is karma phala data. So, in fact, Ishvara need not, regularly open the computer, look at accounts and all that, right? He doesn't have to check, right? For instance, there is a deliberate action, for instance, done by someone. He say, take a jiva who is, taken a mosquito bat and killed the mosquito, right? So with the bat. So it will come back in the form of you being born as a mosquito, and I'm just giving you an extreme example, and somebody doing that to you in return, right? So in this Maya itself, this entire law of karma is inbuilt. It's an automated system. So just as our digestion or breathing happens, and it's all inbuilt in our body, similarly in the cosmos, the law of karma is all inbuilt. Therefore, Ishvaraha karma phaladata. Because of that, Yeshaha tat phalani bhunte. And how does the bhokta experience? So we have to note something here, that karmas can be religious karmas like rituals, pujas, etc., as instructed by the Shastra, or it can be laukika karmas also, right? So Shastriya karma gives Shastriya phalam. For instance, when I do annadanam, give food to others, the receiver gets the result. Their stomach is full. I also get an immediate result, which is joy, there's fulfillment, there is satisfaction. So that is called drishta phalam. So annadanam as a laukika karma gives me drishta phalam, immediately experienceable result of joy and satisfaction. The same annadanam, when I do as a shastriya karma, with an attitude that it is good karma, with shraddha in the Veda, it becomes a shastriya karma. Then the very same annadanam produces both drishta phalam as well as adrishta phalam, which is punyam also. So the punyam will get converted into sukham later. It will give me favorable experiences. So sometimes I get karma phalam, the result of karma, in this janma itself, sometimes in a later janma, depending on the type of karma. So we cannot say whether it will fructify in this birth or later birth, because punyam is invisible. Therefore, Acharya says, for experiencing certain types, varieties of punya, papam, we have to necessarily take other types of bodies, right? So, this is the third layer of physical samsara. We talked about intellectual samsara. We talked about emotional samsara. Now, physical samsara, which is going from one body to another. So, I don't know which body I will take in the next janma, right? So, we don't know whether we'll have the same family, spouse, children, etc. Maybe I'll even be born as a deva, or I could be born as a tree. Therefore, Acharya says, Bhumte vichitrasu api yonishu vrajan. So every time we get into varieties of extraordinary bodies. So if you look at Animal Planet or National Geographic, right, wildlife series, especially the underwater creatures, you can see extraordinary species, right, beautiful colored ones, etc., moving here and there in various shapes, right? So, Vichitrasu yonishu. Yoni means womb. In this context, we take it as Vichitrasu shariram, various types of living beings, species, etc. And that living being is referred to Annamaya Kosha, Vrajan, travels. And who's the traveler? Vijnanamaya, Manomaya, Pranamaya, this nucleus called Jiva or Ahankara, leaves the current physical body called Annamaya, and that jiva will travel and get another new Annamaya Kosha. So Yoni here refers to another Annamaya, Vrajan. So Vrajan should be connected with Bhunte. So if it is in an animal body, say a cow body, for the sake of milk, meat, hides, skin, etc., right, it is tortured also. So the amount of torture they go through is so much that many people actually have started giving up milk, because when they drink the milk, they recollect the torture the cows go through, right? So sometimes they have broken limbs, they're not taken care of properly, etc., right? They cannot even fight back. So this animal protection union, etc., is what human beings try to do for the animals. Animals don't fight back at all. So as humans, we can fight for ourselves, but animals do not even have sufficient free will to fight for themselves, right? So In fact, in Manusmriti, interesting anecdote which Swamiji said, there's a word called Mamsaha, right? So he says, Smriti says it is the shortened form of Mam Saha Bhakshayati. That means what? Saha Bhakshayati. At some time, Mam Saha Bhakshayati. Because I eat this Mamsam, it will come back. Mam is what? Me. It will come and eat me at some other time, right? So, Bhunkte Vichitrasu api yonishu vrajan. So, Vichitrasu yonishu, I take the body of varieties of animals and I go through all the painful conditions. Adaha urdhvam ayati niryati. Right? So, I go to the higher worlds of celestials and experience enjoyment. I also go down to other lower lokas also. So higher is not physically higher, but a loka with much better experiences, with a superior body, etc. So in the bhuloka itself, you can be born as an animal, or you can be born as a mosquito or a bacteria or a virus, right? So urdhvam adahacha, that is basically adaha ayati urdhvam niryati. That is why it is called samsaraha. Samyak sarati, right? Go. So sarati is go. So intensely he goes or travels from one body to another. That is called samsaraha. So even though Vijnanamaya kosha, Vijnanamaya is karta bhokta, you must remember that it cannot do anything without the four koshas. So it is basically without tools, a carpenter is not a carpenter, right? So similarly, Vijnanamaya requires the help of Manomaya, Pranamaya and Annamaya to transact. Vijnanamaya is karta. Asya Vijnanamayasya eva jagrat swapnadi avasthaha. So the three states of experience also belong to this Vijnanamaya kosha only. So of course, through Manomaya kosha, it experiences the three avasthas. So when the mind is fully awake, contacting the external world, it is Jagrata avastha. When the mind is partially awake, experiencing the internally projected world, it is Swapna avastha. And when there is neither the experience of the external world nor the inner mind, then mind has resolved into the Karana Shariram. That passive condition is called Sushupti Avastha. This Jagrat waking, Swapna dream, Adi meaning other avasthas. And through all these states, Sukha Dukkha Bhogaha. The Jivatma experiences pleasures and pains according to the Loka. And often this Jiva is helpless because with regard to Agami, I've got a choice. But with regard to Prarabdham, I have no choice because it has already started fructifying. No doubt I have Prayashchita Karma. The remedial measures are there, right? But for all Prarabdham, you can't find this, right? So verses 54 and 55 have to be taken together, which is Anadikaloya maham swabhavaha jivas samasta vyavahara voda karoti karmani api purva vasanaha punyan punyani cha tatphalani bhunkte vichitra swapiyoni shuprajan ayati niryat yada urdhvameshaha अस्यैव विज्ञानमयस्य जाग्रत् स्वप्नाद्यवस्थाः सुखदुःख भोगः अतो नायं परात्मा स्यात्
अतो नायं परात्मा स्यात्
विज्ञानमय शब्दतः
विज्ञानमयशब्दतः
विकारित्वात् जडत्वाच्च
विकारित्वाज्जडत्वाच्च
परिच्छिन्नत्वहेतुतः
परिच्छिन्नत्वहेतुतः
दृश्यत्वात् व्यभिचारित्वात्
दृश्यत्वाद्व्यभिचारित्वाद्
नानित्यो नित्य इष्यते.
नानित्यो नित्य इष्यते.
So up to this, the definition of Vijnanamaya, the Ahankara, as well as the role of Vijnanamaya has been talked about. Now, Acharya says, the Ahankara is not the real I. Ahankara is also a costume. Just as after taking a bath, different people put on different dress or uniform, like a doctor puts on his coat, a lawyer puts on his dress code, etc. Similarly, I have to function as a jiva. Originally, I am Paramatma, one without a costume. Now, on waking up from sleep, I have to function as a jiva, become an individual, right? So, during sleep, we are one with our own nature. So, in Chandogya Upanishad, in the Shashtadhyaya 681, Sata Somya Tada Sampanno Bhavati Swamapito Bhavati, right? So, I am Paramatma in sleep, right? I have merged into Paramatma, but when I wake up, I have to play a different role. So I put on the Ahankara Vesham. Unfortunately, I forget it is a costume. So here Acharya says, may you remember every role is only a costume. It is not the real you. So this knowledge makes a very big difference. And that is why, right, in the 5 capsules of Vedanta, a very important capsule is by forgetting my real nature, I convert life into a burden. By remembering my real nature, I convert life into a blessing. So, who am I? I am not the Ahankara. Therefore, he says, Ataha na ayam paratma syat. Right? It is not Paramatma, the real self, the real I, it is not. Ataha meaning because of the following groups of reasons. Not one reason, Shankaracharya piles up many reasons. Ataha meaning Svakshyamana hetubhyam. Because of the following reasons, ayam should be connected to Vijnanamaya Shabdabhak. So this Ahankara, which has the name Vijnanamaya, Shabdabhak means possessing the name Vijnanamaya. Nasyat, it is not Atma. So why? What are the reasons? Vikaritvat. Vijnanamaya Ahankara is Karta Bhokta, and as a Karta and Bhokta, he has to do several actions, which means transformation, right? Modification has to take place. So Vikaritvat means transformation takes place because he has to be active, then he becomes tired, etc. Therefore, Savikara Ahankaraha Nirvikara Atma na bhavati. So they are totally opposite in nature. Jadatvacha. Ahankara Vijnanamaya is Jadaha, born out of Sattva Guna of the 5 subtle elements. Therefore, it is inert. Right? So, Anuvrajat Chit Pratibimba, we saw it earlier, Pratibimba Rupaha. Because of Chidabhasa, it appears sentient. By itself, it is Jadaha. So, there is total contradiction in the nature between Anatma and Atma. So, Tamah Prakashavat, like, light and darkness, Viruddha Swabhavayoho. So, in Adhyasa Bhashyam, you see this. Then Parichinnatva Hetutaha. So this Vijnanamaya with Chidabhasa is Parichinnam, is limited, is confined to the physical body. Tasya Purusha Vidatam, right? Anvayam Purusha Vidaha. In Taittiriya Anandavali it comes. This is also the size of the body. That is why it can quit the body and travel also. Whereas Atma, the original consciousness, can never travel because it is aparichinnam, limitless, all-pervading. Therefore, parichinnatva hetutaha, since Vijnanamaya is limited and original Atma is limitless, they can never be one and the same. The next one is Drishyatvat, meaning this Vijnanamaya is an object of my experience. It is called Sakshi Bhasyam or Sakshi Pratyaksham. So I lend Chidabhasa to Vijnanamaya and Vijnanamaya becomes bright just as the moon has become illumined by the sun, right? So whatever knowledge I do not have, right, I basically try to acquire. Therefore, knowledge is an object, ignorance is an object, confusion is an object. So all these belong to Vijnanamaya. All these conditions I know. Therefore, it is Drishyam. Whereas I, the original Atma, is Drik, the seer. And the seer is never the seen, never objectifiable. Therefore, Drishyatvat, right? Then Vyabhicharitvat. Vyabhichari here means deviating, inconsistent, irregular, right? Not permanently available for me. So Ahankara is available in Jagrata Avastha, it is available in Swapna Avastha, but the moment I go to Sushupti, the Ahankara is destroyed or gone, it is resolved. Therefore, it is called Vyabhichari. So whereas I, the original consciousness, I am Avyabhichara Swarupaha, permanent, steady, and even the absence of ahankara, I, right? And I experience in Sushupti that absence of ahankara, I, because of the consciousness, I know. That is why after waking up, I'm able to say, I did not know anything, right? Even that individuality was absent. So, evam sampratyatmanam janati ayam aham asmiti no eve mani bhutani vinashameva pito bhavati nahamatra bhogyam pashyamiti. Chandogya Upanishad, 8th chapter, the Devendra says, Janati ayam aham asmiti. That Sushupti I cannot accept as the real I, because at that time the Hankara, the individuality is not there, and the consciousness I illumines that absence of Ahankara I. Thus Vijnanamaya is Vyabhichara Swarupam, unsteady, and Atma is Avyabhichara Swarupam, ever steady, and they cannot be equated. Right? And finally, Anityaha Nityaha na Ishyate. Right? That is the 6th one. So, Anityaha, this Ahankara or this Vijnanamaya or this Sukshma Shariram is available only during the current Srishti, and during every Pralayam, the Sukshma Shariram, including the Vijnanamaya, ends. It gets resolved into the Karna Shariram, right? So, that is why we talk of an origination of the mind. Etasmat jayate prano manaha sarvendriyani cha Kham Vayur Jyotirabha Prithvi Vishwasya Dharini. In Mundaka Upanishad we saw 213, right? So they are all born, and whatever is born will have to die, whereas Atma is Nityaha. Therefore Shankaracharya asks, Anityaha Katam Nityaha Bhavati, right? Anityaha Nityaha na Ishyate is there, right? So the impermanent Vijnanamaya cannot be considered same as the permanent Atma. So throughout we are doing neti, negating each kosha, right? And we are establishing the non-applicability of Atma's characteristics to the kosha, which is anatma. So we are pushing away one by one. So the Atma Vijnanamaya Viveka is thus basically complete. So Pancha Kosha Viveka is what is our journey. Now 4 koshas we have considered and rejected as anatma. So, atonayam paratma syad vijnanamaya shabdataha vikaritvat jadatvatcha parichinnatva hetutvaha drishyatvat vyabhicharitvat nanityo nitya ishyate. So, now we have to enter the 5th kosha. So, before that, we must remember that with Vijnanamaya kosha, the Sukshma Shariram has been fully negated. So, Pranaha, Manaha, Vijnanamaya kosha put together is Sukshma Shariram. Thus, we have negated both Stula Shariram and Sukshma Shariram. Now, we are entering the subtlest one, which is the Karana Shariram, otherwise called Anandamaya kosha. A very, very subtle topic which will require a lot of intellectual exercise, intellectual application, which we have to start in verse 57, which we will see in the next class. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.